So Jim, thank you for joining us today. Probably last video podcast for the year. I thought it'd be good just to wrap up the year. It's been a big 2024, and there's probably a few things that franchisees and people looking at becoming a franchisee might want to know going into 2025. So the first one I'll start off with, which is obviously your big passion, is the Jim's Job software and software in the group in general. So maybe you want to give an update on where everything is and the plan for 2025 with all that.
We've thoroughly rewritten the software, or in the process of doing it. Look, it's a good package as it is now, but unreliable and difficult to change. And it's on a fairly old software platform. So what we're doing is rewriting it into this more modern platform, which will be more stable, easier to change things. We expect to have the current version of Jim's Jobs transformed by February next year. That's useful for franchisees to understand. That'll include everything that Jim's Jobs does now, but also at least one extra feature which will know when a franchisee hasn't returned a phone call to a client. So that's going to be that feedback. Now, by about October next year, I've been told, it could be later, we'll have a whole series of other changes in place that will be really make a very major difference. For example, the ability to have, if a franchisee wishes them, they're going to have a job booked into their diary. So instead of the client being told they're going to ring back within 2 hours, you say, look, would you be home between 4 and 6? Because we will know how much time the franchisee is available and roughly where they are. Now, the franchisee can change that. But what we think will happen with that is that there'll be a much, much higher conversion rate. Because instead of having just somebody to ring them back, they'll actually have an appointment for somebody to come and see them. It could be this afternoon, it could be tomorrow morning, but there'll be an actual appointment in place. Other changes that we have plans are things like franchisees being able to buy and sell regular clients. So a franchisee is getting very busy, for example, but have a few clients outlying. So what they can do is put them on the market, sell them to somebody else, could be a new franchisee, existing one, and then take more jobs in territory and just keep on doing that. And as they do that, they can actually knock down their fees. So they're actually getting less travel, but they're also saving money at the same time. And that means franchisees can then compact their business. Because you might have somebody who's got 5 jobs in territory, picks up another 15 in territory and sells off, 15 that's too far away, and everybody gains from that. So it's changes of that nature that are going to have a big impact, I think, on franchisee success and reducing their costs, and also in customer service.
Yeah.
Because if a franchisee doesn't bring back, it's not a complaint, it's just a warning. So we can say, okay, you're obviously got behind somehow. Let's pause your leads until we work out what's gone wrong. So we actually think we can dramatically drop the level of complaints and increase the level of service.
It's far better, and the far better customer service, especially online. A lot of the time, people want to request a quote online or whatever, and they get frustrated sometimes having to wait for that 2-hour thing.
Yes.
And I think being able to go straight into the diary and give the franchisee certainty as well about that would be a big change for the group.
Well, one of our major complaints is franchisees not ringing back. Now, if you can avoid the need to ring back at all, that'll automatically massively improve conversion rate. And of course, not only that means that franchisee gets more actual jobs for the money they spend in leads, but it also improves our customer service. Just as an interesting point, I was going through leads that were going to the new removals division, which just started up again. And every single one of the leads I checked, they'd already used somebody else. So because somebody's used something, they see Jim's, maybe an advertisement, they say, I used them for cleaning, I used them for dog wash, now I'm going to use them for whatever it is.
And I was going to say as well, what about the tracking off the franchisee to the home to do the job? So, Uber, for example, you get the tracking. Is that something that's planned, or what's...
That is part of our plan.
Yeah.
So we'll actually be able to know whether a franchisee turns up to appointment. It's also a way of franchisee being able to prove they did the right thing.
Yeah.
So if the client says, first of all, a franchisee makes an appointment, I'm going to be there between 2 and 4 p.m. on Thursday. Now, if the client was to then ring up on Wednesday and say, hey, they haven't turned up, complaint, somebody can simply say, well, actually the appointment was set between 2 and 4 on Thursday, and you received a text to that extent. And so it's a kind of a get-out-jail-free card from the franchisee's point of view. Once they've set the appointment, the client gets texted, and we can actually confirm they did turn up. So the client says he didn't turn up. Well, he said, actually, appointment between 2 and 4 did turn up at 2:30. You weren't home, whatever. So better customer service and less unfair complaints.
I think franchisees will love hearing that. But I'm going to play the devil's advocate here and ask you a tougher question. Franchisees or ZORs might go, been around for a while. We've heard this all before, and we're back to square one. So what would you say to them why is it going to be different this time around?
It's been probably the worst disappointment of the past 2 years is our problems in getting technology changed. All I can say is that this time we have very good teams operating on Jim's jobs and on the rewrite to the FMS system to make that more robust and flexible. So far, they've hit their targets. The things that we're trying out, work out extremely well.
There's been a lot of beta testing with franchisors and some franchisees involved, and I've heard the feedback's actually really good. So,
yeah.
And there's a little feature on the app which I think franchisees might be surprised with your voice and some of the notifications.
That's right. Yeah, that's going to be fun because if a franchisee doesn't return a phone call within half an hour, they get a message from me. And an hour, another message, another message, and then 2 hours, they'll get another message. So they're getting multiple inquiries. So what we want to do is get them to ring, if they are ringing clients back, ring them back really, really fast. Now, you will be able to turn that off and have a warning sound instead if you find it overly irritating. But we know that if we can get franchisees to get better customer service, it'll be better for them. They'll convert more leads. They'll make more money. It'll improve the brand. We'll get more leads coming from the public. And our franchisees will make a lot more money. That's the biggest aim. Technology is the number one thing. The other thing that we're doing now is preparing a client app. We're having it written, make it very simple. Once you've actually booked in for this, you can actually just call up the app and you want to do dog wash, for example, you just go down there. Now that'll immediately tell you, is there any dog wash franchisee available? If there isn't, we're not going to bother with it. But it's going to be so easy. You want a dog wash done, you go, Jim's app, dog wash, wash. And then that ideally will actually set up an appointment for you to come out and do it, or at least a callback, one of the other two. So that'll make it so easy, because why would you go to, because we know who the client is. The other thing we can do with this is makes it easy for the clients to book us compared with anybody else, because we know their details. And
when we did the user research, anyone from 18 to 65, they all thought they loved the idea of the app and being able to get onto a franchisee directly as well. So they all loved it. So we need to get that. That's going to be a big one.
We can also, actually, one of the things we want to do too is to rate clients.
Yeah.
Which Uber and other companies do. But we haven't done it today. The only rating we have now is what's called a red list, which is a bad payer or someone like that who gets barred from getting further leads from us. But with the app, we can actually reward people and say, if you're a customer who books a lot of jobs, and particularly if you accept our quotes, or if you give us feedback, we also recognise that as being a plus, then you're a A-grade client. Now, what we're going to be able to do then is to actually allow top franchisees to choose only to service A-grade clients.
I think also something to point out is the pay for work guarantee stuff, right?
Yes.
I think that's a really good thing. No one else can offer that. I think
so
that's
if you have
really good.
Pay for work, a cleaning franchisee starts with a pay for work guarantee, and anybody in the area of service gets a message, any of the top, saying, if they're not already a cleaning client, that is, saying, hey, because of you're an A-grade client, we'd like to offer you $80 worth of free cleaning. So that's a real heavy bonus. Now, the great thing from the franchisee point of view, of course, this is a really good client who tends to accept jobs and tends to become a regular client. So there are fantastically good quality leads to get a new person off the ground.
And also, it builds loyalty or extra loyalty for someone. I've used gyms before and I'm getting $100 free clean. Like, there's no other company that can offer that. I think it's massive.
The biggest challenge is going to be getting clients to use it. And we're looking at spending quite a lot of money from our branding fund to make that, like giving people free, you get a free $50.
Yeah, well, the branding fund next year, we're trying to hold off on things we've obviously got a big TV show called Space Invaders, which is coming out in February, but we're planning to try and hold back to market the app, and we've obviously got to change signage and all that sort of stuff. I think it's going to be huge. I think it's going to be really, really good. Technology
is our number one absolute killer app. It really is. It's something, we have outpaced our competition in the service industry by a long, long way. Now, we're probably the size of our nearest, 20 competitors combined in the service industry, but this will give us a giant advantage.
We think about where we are now without this stuff.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And then you're going to have this stuff added to, especially the customer app. I think it's going to be huge.
If we can get our franchisees more work, better paying work, make them happier with it. Things like being able to sell off surplus clients, and because it's not very common, but franchisees do sometimes go independent, and that's something we really dislike. We want to hold people forever if we can. The more benefits we can give them, if you can get lots of benefits and pay less fees, that's exciting, and then people want to stay with us for longer.
Yeah, the Gyms customer app shouldn't take as long as people might think it's going to be a very simple MVP to get it out there, but then we're going to add in extra things as we go. But we just need the MVP out there. And the gym's jobs is February. And I think the feedback from the beta testers, which are the franchisors who have been power users in the past of it, so they've got a pretty good idea of the product, have been really, really good. So
yeah, it's going to be it's easiest to learn. That's the easiest thing we do. I want something like an Apple calendar. Nobody ever does a video on how to use an Apple calendar. It's so obvious.
It's intuitive, yeah.
You just need to have something. You pick it up, you look at it. Yeah, I'll do this, and I'll do this. It's just fantastic things. We also want to put in stuff like debt collection. Okay, you've got a client who's a bad debt. Okay. Send them a series of messages, graded messages, text them and so forth, saying you really need to pay, these are the consequences, this kind of stuff. Those kinds of ideas would be so powerful.
But even automation of follow-up and quotes and stuff, the amount of people just, people, I think it's like 50% of people don't go with the quote until the second time or something of a follow-up. So you need to follow up that sort of stuff. Yeah. So that's going to be massive.
It'd be a great thing. You're giving a quote to somebody, and you really want an answer.
Yeah.
So you send them there, and then you give them an option to answer yes, accept, no. Now, if they don't answer at all, you send them another text. Just following up on whether you have the quote. You've got any questions with it? Would you like me to give you a call, or do you accept the quote, or you reject the quote? This kind of thing.
Yeah, I've had a look at the UI and the dashboard and the UX and stuff, and it's pretty good. I think it's really, really cool. It's top shelf, and I think it's going to be a good solution. But February, touch wood, if you're listening to this, it will be out. And I know the beta testers are doing it now. They want to make sure everything's right, and it's going to be really good. And the gym's customer app will be out next year as well. And then obviously...
It fundamentally is ready, but we're just testing it.
Yes, I didn't want to say that, but you're right. I've been told it is pretty much ready, but they wanted to wait. So
we're going to be very, very careful. One of the things we do not want to do is have it go wrong.
No, definitely not. But hopefully, when it's out, everyone gives it a crack. And it does what it needs to do as well. And I think the marketing for the gym's app's going to be huge next year. I'm looking forward to that as well. All right. Now I want to also talk about the summary for the 2024, work lead, lead levels, unserviced leads. Are they getting more, worse? Obviously growth of numbers, all that sort of stuff.
We've had a pretty good year actually. We're just about 5,500 now.
Yep.
Which is good. That's been a good growth year. The business market isn't quite as good as it was in the past, post-COVID. I think the last year has been a bit of a decline in leads. Having said that, we've had well over 200,000 unserviced leads in the past year.
I've checked the system today before. We're nearly 240,000.
Really? So far this year?
Yep.
Oh, wow. Okay. It's more than I thought.
And considering how bad the economy is per person, I think the last 7 quarters we've been in decline in terms of what we're doing. We're like a recession, but I don't want to call it a recession, really. I think we're doing pretty good.
We are. To have that 240,000, that's astonishing.
Yeah.
That's about one lead in 5 or something going unserviced, I think, at present time.
In this market.
And this is a quiet market.
It's a bad market, yeah.
The interesting thing about our situation is gyms is counter-cyclical.
Yeah.
In other words, we tend to do better when the economy is bad, because if people can't have a job, they can't find a job, or they get retrenched, they come to us. We've got work for them. Now, I do know that because I ask my franchisees repeatedly, I'm going to send you a letter after 1 month, an email, asking how you're going. And I really want you to know how you're going. And I ask them about pay for work guarantee at the same time. And I put them pretty hard to respond. And most of them do. And I do know that something like more than 3/4 of the responses are saying, doing well, plenty of work, hit my pay for work guarantee level. And the ones that don't, I can go right back and help them and offer them other things like cross-divisional work and ways of, helpful videos about how to use pay-for-work guarantee and really help them along.
Well, the new intranet's available, so I will tell everyone that, because I know you send in the videos from that, so you don't have to do that anymore. They can go to the franchisee intranet, log in with their details, and it's all there.
I'd probably like to give them a connection too.
Yeah.
But I often do that at the moment. Somebody says, I'm having trouble with pay-for-work guarantee, I don't know how to do it. I shoot them a couple of videos, and we've got so many there.
We do.
Now we're going to be able to pick a topic and just say, have a look at this.
Yep.
You want to become, you have problems with upselling, for example. Okay, here's some great videos on people who are really good at upselling. You want to build a major business. You want to employ people. So, okay, here's interviews, people who are turning over hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars a year. This is how they're doing it. You want to know how to do a particular task. You want to know how to get a better conversion rate, which is a big issue.
Yep.
Because some franchisees, got a message from talking to a franchisee yesterday. He's a new guy, and he's getting like 3/4 of his leads turning into jobs. And I said, "What's your rate?" And he said, "I'm working $100 an hour."
Oh, this is the window and pressure cleaning franchisee.
Yeah, have.
Yeah, I'm interviewing him, yeah.
3/4. Yeah, I always pass the good one to you.
Yeah, we're going to...
But this is the guy who's managed to convert 3/4, getting $100 an hour.
Good money.
And yet there's other people who say they can't convert. They're getting like 30% conversion. So, you know, what can we teach them?
And we interview them. I think it's really unique what we do. So I'm actually interviewing that franchisee on the 7th, and we'll put that on there. But what Jim's got me to do, for people who don't know, is all that topics he's saying, like pay for it, guarantee, and how to upsell and stuff, all the interviews we've done over the years, we're clipping them up, which Charles is doing a great job there, and we're putting them all into that thing. So you click pay for it, guarantee, and you'll see all the different people from different divisions who talk about how they do it in their division. So we've got that at the moment. We're just building it out more.
We want to make sure that every division has it too. I think we need to do one for... We've got one for test and tag, but we don't have one for building inspection.
Well, not specifically, but we do have interviews where they all talk about how they built their business, but it doesn't say specifically how to do the pay for it guarantee.
Well, you could double do it.
Correct.
You could talk about this is a talk. So the more information we have, the better.
But
that's powerful learning tool.
No, you're 100%. But what we've done is when they log into the internet, which is, I think it looks really good, you're going to have those categories which Jim is saying, pay for it, guarantee, how to upsell and stuff, and you click in that and you have those specific videos. Then below that you have your playlist for your division. So you have Jim's mowing, Jim's cleaning, and every single franchisee interview we've done over the years will be in there. So you're talking hundreds and hundreds of stuff, and they literally tell you how to build a business and how to hire.
There must be like thousands these days.
Yeah.
It must have more than 1,000, I reckon.
Yes.
Because I get them all the time. Because if a new franchisee contacts me and says he's doing really well or she's doing really well, I pass it to you. Also, if I ring franchisees on the major anniversaries like 10, 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
And I get that's one of my monthly tasks. I get some fantastic people there who've just done so well. And the ones you don't normally hear from, or any information I get, I talk to anybody. And I talk to a lot of franchisees. I probably have contact with at least 6 or 8 franchisees a day, contact about something. And sometimes there's troubles that I can help with, and sometimes that helps me to improve the system, but also it gives us examples of success. Hey, learn from these people. And everybody's so eager to share that.
Well, that's the thing I think would surprise people, is like they don't hoard knowledge. They want to share it. And, you know, we had Gerald, $2 million revenue franchisee in Jim's mowing, and he wants to share everything how he done it. It's just like for an hour. It's amazing. So it's really good that we've got franchisees who do that. Grant Osborne, another guy, 25 years in Jim's, happy to share his knowledge and talks about his business. Fantastic.
Yeah. It's amazing. We've got some incredibly great people. You know what's most surprising too is some people have this really, really great income. They also manage to get incredibly great customer service.
Yes.
See, when Dan Cole was one of the ones we were doing this, and he was a guy who was turning over close to $1 million a year at the time. But the thing that most impressed me, he got a 5.0 survey rating. And he's now gone on to become one of our most successful franchisors and hopefully going to start up the States for us. This is a high school dropout. This is somebody that the site looks at and says, this person there's a washout. There's no hope for them. But you put them in the right environment.
That's exactly right. I think that's the thing that people need to understand is it's amazing how the small business that Jim's has gives people who could have always had it in them, it allows them to bring it out of themselves. And that's amazing.
You don't need to be. Not every kid is great at study. They don't want to become doctors, but some people are not good at study, but they've got incredible abilities. I like to look for talent anywhere. I mean, yourself coming from an entry-level job, which I find is actually a lot of our best people in gyms tend to come from within. People who've come up through the system, because you can see talents that otherwise wouldn't come through.
Yeah, it's amazing. You're exactly right. The Jim's franchise gives so much good vehicle to people to do a business. They've always had it in them, just never had the confidence or the...
We like to call ourselves a millionaire factory.
Yeah.
Because that's not the typical franchisee. Most franchisees just achieve an adequate income. Some fail, few fail. Most of them achieve a pretty good income, but some of them just do so spectacularly. Well, we reckon we've created more millionaires and multi-millionaires than any other company in the history of Australia.
Now, when I touch on that real quickly, and I agree with you, we're doing some articles hopefully on it, but I put a lot of these short-form videos, interviews, and I go, what's your top-earning franchisee? And obviously they say amount, and then, as you can imagine, tall poppy syndrome comes on with people I've never met before commenting saying BS or sending abuse or whatever over that, saying, you got to take out this, and this, and this, and this. Tell us how they make really net profit, for example. So can you talk about that real quickly? So, for example, we might interview someone and they say, right, in let's say in security, we got one Jim's antennas in security. There's a guy turning over $1 million, and a lot of the times you have people who get inspired by that, but then you have the other side of the mentality where they're just negative and they don't BS, don't believe it. You got to pay Jim 30%. This and that.
But you know what? It's so simple.
Yeah.
The answer is so simple. You just say, okay, interested in a franchise, spend a day on the road with somebody.
Yeah.
Just look at them, count what they're making, look at what their costs are. They'll tell you, and do it. So why be skeptical when it's so easy? And I say to anybody too, you believe that we're coming here 30%. Okay, here's a simple strategy to work that one out. We're going to give you a list of all the franchisees in the region you're interested in with their phone numbers, and then ring them and ask them what they're paying. And they'll tell you it's not like 30%. You might find it's an average of about 6%.
Yeah, and we don't ask net income because everyone's got different structures. They might have family trusts, or they might have, whatever. So I know that's their information. So that's why we talk in revenue. But people got half a brain can work out, business expenses.
Well, if you know a person's turning over $2 million a year and they've got 5 employees, I mean, come on. What are they paying them, $250,000 a year for someone to clip hedges?
Exactly. They've got to try and work it out. But I always find that funny because we do a lot of those videos and a lot of people get inspired by it, and that's the thing that gets them in. But you have a lot of the tall poppy syndrome, which I think Australia's pretty bad for, unfortunately, want to try and... You can't make $2 million doing Jim's mowing. Like, they're just adamant about it.
But I'm interested in the person who wants to make $2 million.
Exactly. And
that's the person you want to reach. And that person is smart enough to actually do a bit of investigation. Somebody is saying it's impossible, nobody can do it, you'll never succeed, you can never make money, it's all stacked against you. And this person says, well, okay, all right, I can listen to that. Why don't I do my investigation? Let's go out on the road with 1 or 2 guys. Let's see what they're making. Let's talk to them. Let's do some research. Down the track, they're the ones making $1 million a year.
And I want to tell you something real quickly, because I interviewed one of the franchisees recently you sent through, a guy called Gary. So Gary was 37 years in IT, and he's had some businesses before, and he's done Jim's mowing, and after his first month, he's earned more than what he did in his previous job, all right? And he said exactly the same thing. He said, when I told my friends and family, wife and stuff, they told me don't do it, etc., etc. Business advisors, accountants, didn't listen with them, watched all the content, persisted, and he said to me, goes, best thing I've ever done. I feel sorry for people who listen to those people who talk them out of it. He said they need to do their own research. It's just amazing. And he said the same thing. People want to try and, if you want to try and do something outside that's going to put you above them or do better than them, they'll try and bring you back.
But rather you were making $80,000 a year forever,
yeah,
than to see you making $500,000 or whatever. That's just it's just human nature. But I tell you what, I mean, what we find is one of the best ways to pick a good franchisee. If you want to know who's going to be good, someone does the research.
Yeah.
If somebody actually gets out there and they ring people and they ring franchisees and they go out on the road, they do their own, that's the kind of person that's likely to be successful. That's the kind of person we look for. I actually tell franchisors that you want to know who's the good people, because one of the things we very strongly emphasize, to franchisors, if you don't think a person's going to succeed, you do not sign them up. And there are flags. But it's also what to look for, what's good to look for, and research is it. And that's actually how Jim's got going in the first place. When I was up against a much bigger and more entrenched competitor, I didn't make any big song and dance about how fantastic we were and how we are and how bad they are. I simply said, here's a list of my franchisees, here's their phone numbers, you ring them. And then spend the day out on the road with them, go out and do your investigation. And when they did that, the people that did that were the ones that went ahead and bought, and they're the ones that are going to be successful. Whereas somebody just says, yeah, I'll listen to what everybody else says and I'll just follow it.
Yep.
Not business-like enough.
Yeah, and that's why we do so much content, because I get frustrated with people listening to someone on Reddit, about Jim's car detailing franchise, for example. There's a whole chain about it, and you have got all these people chiming in saying all these incorrect things which you've gone over and addressed. But it's quite frustrating sometimes that people still listen to them. But I was going to say then, let's go to the franchisor side of it. So we had, obviously, franchisors are a big part of the business, and we had, I think it was 25 Diamond Award winning franchisors this year based on the franchisee surveys. So maybe you want to talk about the franchisor part for 2025, that side of the business.
Well, we do an annual survey of franchisees and we ask questions. We ask them about their income, whether it's good, satisfactory, poor. We ask them about their meetings, so what meetings they've been able to attend. So that's very important information for us. But roughly speaking, a little bit over half good, about 9% average poor, the rest is satisfactory. So we know that kind of stuff. We also ask questions about support. How often does your franchisee ring you to see how you're going? Does they do it weekly, monthly, later? How quickly do they get back to you? Do they take the call, get straight back? Do they 24 hours later? And are they very helpful, somewhat helpful, not helpful? Now, to get a Diamond Award, you need to get basically pretty well all your franchisees saying, yes, ring me at least weekly, get back to me straight away, I take the call, and very helpful. And that's very hard. Until about 6-7 years ago, there was no such category. But in recent years, the level of service provided by our franchisors has risen so much. We've got 25 who are doing something that nobody was doing, say, 5-6 years ago. It's very inspiring. And we have seen a tremendous increase in support given by franchisors. I know that too when I ring my veterans, my 10-year, 20-year veterans. I was doing it last night, actually, doing the December calls. How many of them said this? I always ask them, how's your franchisor that supports you? And the same answer always, yeah, they've been great. They really support me well.
That's great to hear. And I always hear it on the podcast feedback from the franchisors, which is good because sometimes they might feel like they're getting a whack sometimes, so it's nice to give them a bit of positive. And I was going to say, the diamond wall, it's finally happening. So when they come into National, we got rid of the TV, so there's a few holes in the wall, but we've got the Charles is bringing his photo printer and we're putting the photos in the frames and stuff. So we're going to have the diamond wall where they're going to have 25 franchisors on there for the year anyway, which is cool.
Yeah, and next year we might have 30.
Hope so.
Look, we have different awards. We actually have a thing called Platinum, which used to be the top one, and we have Gold, which is still pretty good. So even a Gold award means that the great majority of franchisees are still saying you're bringing them pretty often, giving good support, getting back to them, this kind of stuff too. Even Gold is pretty good, but to be Platinum or to be Diamond, it's even harder than that because to be Platinum or Diamond, you have to have at least 4 franchisees answering. You can't have one person giving an answer because that's too easy to get. You have to have at least 4. So it's pretty tough. But 25, isn't that?
There's a good variety of divisions as well. Like it was not just a couple of divisions. It was a very good mix of multiple divisions. So.
Yeah, I'm very proud of it actually. People often ask me, are you proud of having so many franchisees? And I say, well, actually, the thing that really gives me the most pride is the fact that so many of my people care about what they do, particularly franchisors looking after franchisees. In the opinion of franchisees, they're doing a good job. And also the fact that we give great customer service too. But mainly, the thing that I'm proudest of is the way we support our franchisees and the way we can measure that and we can show improvement with time. We've seen with time a steady decrease in the level of complaints. We've got more and more franchisees on 4.8, 4.9, and 5.0 stars these days than used to be in the past. And more franchisors are getting awards and high-level awards for better service. So we're actually improving what we do all the time. And that's exciting about business because no matter how good you are, you can always do better. So when I see the potential over the next year for us to improve our customer service and our service to franchisees even more, how exciting will that be?
Absolutely. I would say franchisors, we're working on your intranet as well at the moment, and there's going to be a lot of unique tutorials using AI and stuff, which I think is very unique and keeps us at the forefront, to be honest. I don't think there's any other franchise organisation doing this, a lot of the stuff that we're doing and showing you guys as well. So check out the franchisor intranet too. All right, the other thing I want to ask about is, everyone you would know about the controversy. Obviously, this year we've had a good run with PR for a very long time. We've been pretty thankful, obviously, and then obviously we had a 2-week spate of bad one, unfortunately. So we've obviously covered that in depth in some stuff as well. But hopefully it doesn't happen again next year, and hopefully we've got a few things working on some other things. But
well, like I said about that is the situation with dog wash. We had somebody, unbeknownst to us, promising franchisees they were owning their trailers, which clearly was shown they weren't. I was told, legally speaking, they've got no case, but morally speaking, we said, okay, if that's the promise being made to you and you want to take advantage of it, you can have your trailer, and we actually transferred it.
I just want to be clear again for everyone because we can clip this up. So you had no reason to give their trailer back, but because of ethics and the moral obligation, you did.
You said, look, the only reason you want your trailer is you're going to go independent. So all you've got to do is to pay for the trailer, pay for the cost that we've been spending to look after your trailer, which we do, and pay $5,000 to waive return of trade. And after that, trailer is yours. And I think about 40 or 50 franchises have taken that option.
They did, yep.
Yeah. So the numbers have dropped a bit, but it's still a great division, and the ones we've got back have been well looked after. We've even given them a bit of a bonus. We give them 6 months free fees as an alternative. So we looked after people, and the controversies died away, and the numbers are starting to rise again, and it's all positive. And
also the training facility is awesome. So we've got a training centre on site. We actually did a video of Ali. You can have a look at it. I think it's really good. I don't think no other competitor in that field actually has that. It's all on the road stuff, whereas this is a nice salon here.
Some of the feedback we were getting was that we were being trained for on the road, and some of it was not quite up to standard. So we want to make sure that every franchisee in dog wash from now on has first-rate training.
Well, the beautiful thing about it is you're going to do your gym's training here, and then you're going to do your full dog wash grooming training in here with expert external groomers as well, and plus Ali as well, who was a franchisee, so she knows exactly what's going through it. So I think it's top-notch training, and we've got actually a video online showing the full facility. You've invested a lot in that, which I think is a really, really good sign for the division.
Yeah.
And the other one I'll be cheeky about, there's no $2.7 million dispute. So the company's not going bust or anything, because I know that one comes up in the search results a bit.
Yeah, just some idiot of a franchisor decides we had a mediation session. A couple of days later, settled it in 2 hours. Just to change the way we answer the phones for certain kinds of jobs, answer the extra question. It was a trivial thing. He was just silly grandstanding.
So the company financially is going okay, so I don't believe there's a dispute going on for 2.7 million.
No, it didn't cost us a cent to fix it. Nothing. It was all done.
I just had to be clear, because sometimes when you search Jim's Group, unfortunately, that comes up and people just read the headline. They don't know anything about mine as well. And the other thing I want to talk about, your new books, because I think the Know the Success book, I think, is going to be a really good improvement to what you've got. So maybe you want to talk a little bit about that one. Yeah,
it's a new book. It's actually been carefully edited and improved. With a highly professional editor from the US. We're going to launch it overseas as well. But a lot of it's got to do with stories. With not just my own story, but that of many, many people who've had success through gyms, and talking about them and how they've succeeded. So a lot of stories about families and so forth, and lifestyle. People come to us not just to make a lot of money. There's something to do, but because they want to spend time with their kids growing up, this kind of thing. So it could be a good book.
And you did the audiobook version as well.
I did the audiobook.
Reluctantly, you did it.
Reluctantly, I don't like the sound of my own voice, but I was informed that it was a good idea by yourself.
Well, I listen to a lot of audiobooks as well. I like hearing the actual author read the book. I don't like hearing a...
Well, when I'm promoting things based on, at least they know my voice, because I'm going on a podcast and then they hear my actual voice. I don't think I'm as good as professional readers, but it's good enough, I think.
I think it was pretty good. And then obviously you got a couple of other ones you're working on, which I think will be pretty impactful if it goes off, is the birth rate one. So we'll talk about that.
Baby bust.
Baby bust.
We're working on that pretty heavily. It's gone through a lot of editing and changes and help. We just want to make the best. I'm getting expert advice from our research team. And we're actually doing a lot of specifically related research programs early next year. So it's going to be probably late next year before it's released.
You put a lot of time into this, because I know it's been a lot of time, and you're trying to research it, and obviously the scientific element's really important. So can you just talk about what are those things then next year you're going to be doing for it?
Well, continuing to write and rewrite, and we're doing we've actually recognised that a lot of what's behind all these things is dopamine and dopamine receptors.
Okay.
And we actually, there's not a lot of scientific research being done, so we have to do our own studies to actually find out more about how these things work. But the aim is to develop a treatment which can help people to change their character in a way that would help them to be more happy, to be more successful in their careers, but also to want to have more children. There's a change taking place in our society right now, which is towards selfishness and hedonism and stuff, which is making people miserable, and it's focusing on the wrong things. We want to help change characters. There's simply a medication available. It'll also be something that should help people to overcome problems like drug addiction and alcoholism as well.
Do you think people aren't taking this serious enough? Because I think the occasion you see an article like on a news.com, for example, you see like Japan is giving the 4-day work week to encourage government workers for more social relations and all these sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
So
they've been trying all over the world. Countries have been trying, governments have been trying to give baby bonuses and free childcare and all kinds of stuff. Makes no difference at all. The birth rate keeps on going down. And the studies that we've done looking at the attitudes of the youngest generation suggest that it's going to decline further. Fertility rate is going to drop. But the big difference now is that people are starting to worry. Back in the 1970s, people were saying, zero population would be great, let's not overrun the planet. But now population is starting to decline. And it's happening in country after country. A population is actually going down, and the governments are starting to panic. And I think this is why we want to come out with this book now, because people are now ready to listen. Everybody said, everything's fine, we don't have to do anything, society is fine, we're all getting richer, everything's going well. No. We're starting to recognise there's some serious problems. And I believe all we need to do is to put a research program together which will deal with these issues. And it's not a lot of money. It's a fraction of the money that's been spent currently to try and prop up birth, and it should solve it.
I think with Elon Musk getting behind it a lot, people he's one of the world's smartest people for a reason, and he's really pushing this as well. So
he's concerned.
Yeah.
Look, you've got South Korea. You need 2.1 children per woman to actually maintain population. They're at 0.7. They're having a third as many babies as necessary to maintain the population. These countries are simply going to die out. They just can't survive. And the people are recognising that. They're saying this is a real problem. At last, they're waking up the fact that there is a problem. And so when I come up with a solution which is very sound scientifically, everything we've done is being backed up by my research team. We're currently spending well over $3 million a year on a research program. And people are involved, and they're very, very into neuroscience and dopamine and hormones and this kind of thing, to epigenetics. We're getting some very high-level science behind this, and we're going to say, hey, here's the solution. Let's work on it.
I was going to say, yeah, so your hope is that you develop the treatment which will, is it a pill or something, or how does it?
Yeah, pill, injection, whatever.
Yeah.
Look, it's like the weight loss drugs, for example.
Like
that
Ozempic,
kind of thing.
Yeah.
We think that if you did this, it also would actually help people to lose weight because they'd be more disciplined. But we believe that we can solve the issue. One of the great changes taking place in recent years is the development of what's called CRISPR, which is a way of actually making very precise epigenetic changes. So you can actually look at what's gone wrong and say, hey, here's a change to the genome that's causing major problems. Something driven by the environment, let's change that. Let's switch it off. Let's do this. And it should be possible to actually have somebody, for example, who's a hopeless drug addict, for example, completely demoralized, take a medication and they don't need drugs anymore, and they start working and they start studying and they get married and have kids and turn into a happy, self-reliant, contributing citizen. Because there's nothing wrong with these people genetically. It's just the environment that's stuffed them up in some ways, and we want to change that.
Do you think then with Japan, for example, what they've come out with their, all government employees, there's 120,000 of them, they're going to do a 4-day work week in the hope of fostering some sort of...
Let me give a bet, and I'm quite prepared to make this a financial bet. The Japanese birth rate will continue to decline. This will make no difference at all. Nothing that anybody does is any difference to the birth rate. None of it works. People just think in terms of money. People have children not because they have money, because they can afford to, because they want to. I started having children when I was basically broke, in debt, working as a lawn mowing contractor. I just wanted kids. And that was, to me, a high priority. It was a higher priority than having a nice car or a great house or holidays or anything. I just wanted children. I need to be able to support them, and I could, but I didn't need to be rich to do that.
Yeah, because you often hear on the radio, like talkback or things where people say, no wonder people don't have kids because they can't afford a home, or cost of living pressures, all that sort of stuff. Or they say, we don't want to bring a kid into a world which is affected by climate change, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I think that's just a rationalisation. If you don't want to have children, I don't want to have children. I don't want to say it because I'm basically more interested in having leisure and big cars and fancy holidays and stuff. They say, I don't because of climate change. So if you really believe that, well, go off and live as a hermit in the bush and grow your own potatoes. I mean, come on. It's just an excuse.
Yeah, so it could be quite huge. If you get this thing out here and you get it translated into Japanese, for example, who knows, someone at the government might take a notice of it, because there's not many. Is there many authorities in this field, from what you can tell?
No,
there's not.
Nobody has that solution.
Yeah,
I've not seen anything. They all say, here's a system that's been failed, which is bribing out of you. That's failed, and it's failed, and it's failed. Here's my answer. Let's do more of the same thing. It doesn't work. And I think it was Einstein said, repeating the same thing again and again, expecting a different answer is a pretty good definition of insanity.
That's correct, yeah.
And that's all they're doing. They don't know what to do, but I know what to do.
Well, I think it's a good opportunity, because I look online and you see on X and stuff, there's a couple of people like Musk does. There's a few other people who tweet graphs and stuff as well. There's probably a small percentage of people. I don't think there's anyone who's really known as the go-to expert on this. So it sort of seems to be there's a massive opportunity for your book, for your profile as well. I think for the Jim's group as a whole, I think it'd be amazing.
Yeah. Well, it's worthwhile doing it for its own sake.
Yeah.
It's always been like the central focus of my whole life. The basic reason that I launched Jim's group was to fund my research, because I couldn't do it as an academic, and I wouldn't have had the money anyway because it's expensive. Like, we're talking millions of dollars a year. You're doing advanced biomedical research. I had to develop my business to be able to fund that.
And I want to talk one real quickly as well. I think we've been doing a lot. We've been doing a lot of on TikTok. You've got a lot of views now with a lot of stuff. We're doing a Q&A thing, and you're just giving unfiltered answers, and I think it's been people receiving it well. People either have negative comments or positive, and we read them out. But there's been some controversy about, let's say, pricing. So, for example, I've been reading a lot to you about pricing and stuff like that. So maybe you want to talk comment a little bit about that, because we had that big article that went in the Daily Mail of that guy who rang up the franchisee and got quoted this price, and it all went viral as well. So
yeah. It was like $800 to do a lawn or something stupid like that.
Yeah.
So first of all, I think it's an exaggeration. People say that they've got a small lawn and it's in good condition, and you go and have a look at it, and the grass is up to there. I mean, seriously, it was obviously a bigger job. But the other thing I'd say is this: if I've got a problem with my franchisees, they don't charge enough, because I have a certain priority, okay, in life, and I do want to look after my clients because they're important, and you've got to do that for them. But my first priority is franchisees, and the analogy I give to that is, if you had a little child who was going to die, but you had $100,000 that could pay for an operation, would you spend it or not? But now when you're about to spend it, somebody comes up to you and says, hey, there's kids in Africa that are dying. If you give this money to this particular medical charity, we can save 200 kids in Africa from dying. Which are you going to choose? Now, the fact of the matter is, almost anybody would say, I'd save my own kid. Well, I look at it the same way. In a way, my franchisees are my family, my extended family. That's why I give them permission to ring me anytime, even on Christmas Day. Public holidays, after hours, weekends, doesn't matter. They can contact me anytime. They can email me and I'll respond. That's usually the best way. They can ring me because they are my family. And that's my top priority. So when it comes to a conflict between clients wanting a cheap price and my franchisees wanting a great income, franchisees are going to win every time from my point of view.
Yeah, and I think it's quite amazing to see the response to some of these videos. Some of these gets tens of thousands, a couple of 100,000, 150,000 plus views. So I just think it's, as you can imagine, you get everyone commenting negative or positive depending on it. Some people say we love the honesty, or some people say your customers should be the priority, not the franchisees. Yeah. There's a whole range of opinions for it.
We have a different view. First of all, my franchisees are more important to me than customers, ultimately. Doesn't mean to say we're not fanatical about customer service, because great customer service is what keeps franchisees being busy. That's what gets individual franchisees to make the most money. That's what gets us the group. So customers are really important, but they're important because I really want to help my franchisees to make a great income, and that's my number one priority, always is.
You're amazed by how much reach it gets, because I think it's, because everyone talks about they want their business to be more genuine and authentic and they want to hear from people more. I think it's been great that we can just, negative ones we sort of answer a bit more, but we just answer them. I think it's fantastic. I think it's refreshing, and I think people find it refreshing. They might not agree with what you say, and I'll let us know that they don't agree with it, but I think it's been quite interesting to see the response to you.
Yeah, well, the sad fact of the matter, Joel, I'm not very good at doing most things. I certainly couldn't do your job, and I couldn't do the job of people in finance or legal or documents. They're much better than me, so there's relatively few things that I can do well, so being in touch with my franchisees in the public, it's part of it.
And there's been, in 2025, there's obviously a lot of franchising changes as well. I think there's been another new code and all that sort of stuff as well, and I don't know, is there much of a change for what we're going to be having to do in response to that, or it's pretty much business as usual?
Oh, the code's pathetic. It really is. It's just, we've said again and again, what you need to do is have an official system to rate franchisors by their franchisees. This code of conduct is just, these disclosure documents are just stupid. Because I know for a fact, I was at one training session, I actually asked anybody there, has anybody read the disclosure document? Not one person had even read it. And in fact, lawyers find it impossible to understand. It's so complicated and technical. If you want to bury all the hidden commissions, just put it in the disclosure document and nobody will ever see it. It's absolute garbage. And the simple things they could do, which we've actually had done ourselves this last year, we actually had an independent polling organisation polling our franchisees. We do not know, we cannot know what any franchisee said. And they came up with the same answers as our internal polling. Actually, slightly worse because it's only about 30% responded.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, franchiseesurveys.com.au.
But if everybody did that, then that would do so much for franchising in this country. And that's what needs to happen. But I don't think the government will ever do it. There's too much pressure from the franchisor lobby and the FCA and so forth, who really, really don't care about franchisees.
It's nice statement there. I'm sure that will get a few conversations going as well. And I was going to say as well, just before we end today, do you have a New Year's resolution, or what do you get up to in your break for people? I don't know. I know you don't like the holidays, but I'm
going to keep on doing things better. We're going to keep on improving. I'm going to give better service to my franchisees, and I'm going to work on my book and there's a lot of useful things. As for a break, I'm not a great fan of holidays, as you know. The office closes during Christmas and New Year, so I'm taking my family out to the beach. We're staying in a guest house place, and it'll be good. I've got I keep on forgetting the number. I've got 5 grandchildren now and a 6th on the way, so it's starting to be interesting.
You're going to have a bit of a tribe going there with more grandkids coming over the years.
Yeah. It is. Well, it should be more. Should be a few coming.
Absolutely.
I mean, with 10 children, you expect to have a few, wouldn't you, eventually?
You will. Maybe 30 or 40 in the end, who knows?
That'd be optimistic, current fertility. But if I had 15 or 20, I'd be pretty happy.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, hopefully have a great break, and thank you again for all the franchisees and customers and franchisors as well. And big thanks to Jim, who always does all this content for the year. And the great thing about having Jim so accessible is that, all the people who do the research when they come to training, they've watched hours and hours of what you do, and it makes it a lot easier for franchisors and for them to come here as well.
They've seen this, and that's important. That's a good sign too. I've done the research.
All right, thanks, Jim. Merry Christmas.